right, it's fittings time. So let's see what I've got in my box of fun. So actually, what I think I'll do is I'll go over the ISO tank fittings first, because those are probably the easiest. So for those of you, again, that are not familiar with ISO tanks, they're the little 20-foot container tanks, bulk container tanks that go on the rails. So if you've ever been to a rail yard, you'll see the little 20-foot tanks. That's an ISO tank. Don't ask me what ISO stands for. I have no idea. So ISO fittings, there's really only a couple of them. We're going to use that one. That one. We're going to use that one. We're going to use that one. And we're going to use this one. Alright, so on the top of every ISO tank will be a like a valve, just like you saw on this one. It's an air valve. I've heard it called many things, but I'm just going to call it an air valve. It's typically at the back of the tank, on top. So if you're going to air off, you know, if you're going to use an air compressor and try and air off the load, you got to have an adapter, a Chicago fitting adapter, and most of them take this one. It's a 1.5 BSP fitting. I do also have a 2-inch BSP. I have never used the 2-inch BSP in the year I've been hauling ISO tanks, but just in case, you do need to have it. So every single time I've done an ISO load, I've used this. So basically, there's a cap on top of the air valve. You just screw the cap off. This screws right on. Usually carry a small pipe wrench. You can, anything you've got. You can even use channel locks if you really wanted to. Just tighten it down, make sure it's not leaking, and you're good to go. So these fittings, and unfortunately, I'm not with an ISO tank today, so I would show you. But on the back of every ISO tank, like you saw in the domestics, they already have a 3-inch outflow. On an ISO tank, they don't. They only have a 3-inch thread. So you need a fitting in order to hook your hoses to it. Again, in the year I've been doing this, these are 3-inch BSP fittings. This one and this one, it's the same fitting. The only difference is this is an extension and this is not. And then you've got a 3-inch, somebody told me what it was. I just call it a standard. It's more like an American. It's coarse thread is what it is. You can kind of see the threads there. I'll show you the threads in this one. See how they're finer? I've only used this fitting twice, and it was a strange ISO tank. So again, it's dirty because I've got holes in my tank, in my side box. So they get a little dirty. I try and wash them every now, I wash them after every use, and all the fittings get a washing every couple of weeks. So the reason why I have two separate fittings is once you screw the fitting onto the back of the ISO tank, there's not always room to hook the cam locks, around because of the way that they build the tanks. So I had this built. So basically this is a 3-inch BSP just added to an extension with another BSP fitting on top. Actually, that's a standard. I have a standard, but it's a 3-inch, so it's a 3-to-3 with a 3-inch BSP, and this allows it. So let's say my trying to hold this with the camera and stuff. So let's say my valve, my outflow screw is right here, and then you've got usually some bracing or something, or some metal to kind of for structural. What I can do is once you screw this on, it actually gets it so it sticks out farther, and you got a much easier time hooking your hose up to it, and stuff like that. So I usually carry a little bucket with me. I use it when I'm pumping off. Every now and then the packing inside of it just kind of gets worn out. There's some adjustment bolts that you can tighten up, but just in case, every now and then I get a little drip depending on the product, so I just keep a bucket with me. So let's go over some of the other fittings that we use. And yeah, now I also use these fittings in conjunction with these. These are just specific to the ISOs, because you need to, because there's no fitting on the back of the ISO tank. So everything else I'm going to show you I use in conjunction with these. These specifically are what you have to basically screw onto the back of the ISO tanks in order for you to use any of the other fittings. So I also have another 3-2 and another. I'll do this. I'll kind of go over it and we can kind of pull all this out. Some of these need to be washed. Okay, I'll pull a couple of these out when I'm done. So just kind of go over again. We got 3-2 reducers, so you can kind of get a better look of it. So we're going from a 3-inch down to a 2-inch. Okay, we've got a 2-2. So 2-inch male, 2-inch male. You saw the 2-inch, 2-2 female. I'm already using that. Let's see, I've got a 3-3. This is actually it right here. I just have it connected on, just, I don't know why. Another 3-3. Okay, you can see that. I have a 3-3 female. That's what this is. Okay, let me see if I can do it with one hand. There we go. So 3-3 female, 3-3 male. Now, these 4 fittings, somebody will probably say in the comments, if I have the comments open, I've never used them. We have them. I have no idea what the hell they're used for. Somebody told me they were garbage fittings. I have used these on occasion. I've actually used this one because we were toting. I was pumping, I was offloading via pump, and they were toting in the totes, and the guys, I actually have one here, tote handle, he wasn't actually using a steel connector, he was using a plastic, and with the force of the pump, it actually blew the plastic apart and just sprayed product everywhere. So I actually carry a tote nozzle now, and so what I had to do was we were able to screw on the end of the hose, actually the end of his, and then use it to connect to my hose. So that's the only thing I've used it for. Otherwise, I've never used it. Basically, you got American style or a coarse. I'm sorry, one of these might be BSP. I think they're BS. I apologize. It's BSP. These are coarse. Coarse male, coarse female, fine male, fine 3 male. For doing chemicals, I've never really used them. I said I've used it to jerry rig something, but other than that, I've never really had a need to use it. So I'll just take a minute. Let me get the last couple of ones out here. I'll show you my Frankenstein fitting. This is probably the best thing I've ever bought. Got it on Amazon. Basically, it's a 3-3 and 90 degree. I use this because I don't have a huge wheelbase, but it's long enough that I got to use 2 hoses if I'm going to offload, especially an ISO tank. And if I'm actually a domestic and the unloader's at the rear, I try and actually unhook, drop the tank, unhook and pull it next to it if at all possible. But the reason why I said this to save me on the ISO tanks, without this, I can barely get the hoses from the back to my pump. With this, it's actually a lot easier. I have a little more play. It's not like wrestling an alligator. So this is like 40 bucks on Amazon. It was like the best 40 bucks I'd ever spent. And last but not least, my Frankenstein. This is basically a 3-to-3. Apologize. This is a 3-to-3 with a blow off. The reason why this is my Frankenstein is because it's just ugly to look at. Basically, actually, how we built this was we had some hoses that got damaged. So this is actually the part that goes inside the hose. So if I got a hose right here. So if you're looking at this, okay, this part right here is this part right here. And then inside here, right here, is this part here. So what we did, we had some damaged hose, so we actually cut up the hose. I took 2 of the hose ends, welded them together. I didn't do it, I actually had the mechanic do it. And then we drilled and tapped and then welded a port for the blow-off line. Now the reason why we did it this way, I know it looks, so I call it my Frankenstein. The reason why we did it this way is sometimes when you go to unload, if I had the blow-off valve coming like this, okay, it would really get in the way on certain tanks and depending on the configuration. So by moving it forward and up, it actually allows me to get to it a lot better. So for example, if I was going to put this on here, okay, or even up here, you can see that, if I can get back far enough, because this thing's heavy, you can see that it's there, it's nice and convenient. If I had this blow-off valve going straight out here, it was going to go into my my quarter fender for my drive tires. So that's kind of the way we did it. So that's it for fittings. I kind of go over a couple of miscellaneous things that I think every tanker, at least guys hauling chemicals, should have. And we'll wrap up the video. Thanks.